Who is this woman in the mirror? Yes, you, the one who used to love teaching, the one who used to speak at conferences, the one who took any opportunity to hang out with her friends. Where did she go? You turn off the light, you make a pot of coffee, and you plonk down on the sofa. Outside, you notice a hummingbird at the feeder, its wings moving invisibly fast. And you think to yourself, if only I could find a fraction of that energy. So let me ask you a question. What do you do when you've lost your vitality? When the zest that buoyed you through decades seems to have vanished? It's a question we ask ourselves when inertia threatens our very existence. It's one I asked myself at 64 when I sensed my vitality plummeting. One I hazard many of us ask in a lifetime. At the time, I was living in a small mountain town close to my younger daughter and my grandchildren, languishing, not flourishing. For over 5 years, I'd called this place home, but the reality was its remoteness wasn't a right fit for me. What was I doing with my one wild and precious life? Not enough. Then it hit me. What if I died next year? In 5 years, 10? What did I want those years to look like? To live a life as wide as it is long had been my modus operandi for as long as I could remember. And I needed to widen my life. And so it began. An online advertisement for a women-only jungle trekking tour in northern Thailand set my heart racing. Me, jungle trekking and river rafting. I knew in my bones that it was the challenge I needed to loosen the threads that kept me stuck and to remind me that I was, in fact, alive. A few months later, I gave up my apartment. I packed my few belongings into a carry-on suitcase and I flew away. What followed was 14 months of travel with no agenda. Was it always easy? No. But I'd learned from a decade earlier, after my 2-year journey, leaving my daughter's ashes around the world, that long-term solo travel can revitalize me like nothing else can. For me, travel is confirmation that to live a vital life is the best legacy of love. It's our birthright, yours and mine. It's these journeys that confirmed my desire to become a travel coach, to help other midlife women like me revitalize their lives through long-term solo travel. Hi, I'm Becky Livingston, and a couple of fun facts about me are that in the past 15 years, I've given up my home twice to go traveling, and I'm a lover of pretty much anything produced by the BBC. But first, I want to share something with you that might completely change the way you think about travel. Research shows that travel is an incredibly powerful way to revitalize your life at any age. And it's especially potent when we're struggling to find our way forward after the death of a loved one, at the end of a close relationship, or maybe after we retire from a long career. So, why is this topic so important, and how does it impact you and me? That's what I'm going to share with you today. By the end of our session, you'll come away with 2 ideas you can use when you plan your next journey, and a resource that'll help you assess your own vitality. Plus, I'll share a story about a remarkable man I met on a plane. Let's just say he bore striking resemblance to a certain movie star. So, what qualifies me to be presenting at this TCN summit? Well, I'm not here to sell anybody a plane ticket. That's not what I do as a travel coach. But I've written a best-selling book on the subject called The Suitcase and the Jar: Travels with a Daughter's Ashes. I've given talks, taught courses, and have decades of solo travel under my belt. I've also had the honor of coaching some incredible women who are choosing vitality and curiosity over fear and comfort. Perhaps you see something of yourself in my story, a sense that lamenting our life situation, especially as we grow older, can too easily snuff out our vitality. It's easy in our 60s to underestimate how much opportunity we still have. And let's face it, life is fragile. Never knowing how many more years we have on the planet is a powerful motivator. So, what do I mean when I talk about vitality? To me, it's a sense of aliveness, a visible flow of energy that moves through us physically, mentally, and spiritually. We see it clearly in young children, but over the years it can become more elusive, and women especially, often the primary caregivers, feel this more acutely. But what's important to remember is that to invite more vitality into our lives and into our travel experiences, we have to look towards the things we love most in the world and let that guide us. At every age, this is key. So, how do we do this? How do we invite in more vitality and make good choices for our body, our mind, and our spirit in life and when we go traveling? Okay, let's dive into what I'm here to share with you. Let me share my STAMP framework to help unpack what I mean. STAMP is an acronym which I created, which aligns beautifully with travel. It's easy to remember because we love getting stamps in our passports, right? But because I only have 20 minutes with you, I can't possibly share all 5 of the pillars. So I'm going to speak about 2 of them and skim over the other 3 at the end. So let's turn our attention to the first pillar of my travel STAMP framework. First up, S. Set an intention for our journey. Just as therapy works best when it starts with a clear intention, so does travel. So let me go back a moment to the story I told you about when I was living in that small mountain town in BC. In the months before I left to go traveling, what became very clear to me was that something was awry, something was missing. What I mean by that is a decade earlier, when I had gone traveling with my daughter's ashes, my intention had been clear. I was going to fulfill my daughter's dying wish to keep traveling. But all these years on, I knew I needed to figure out the why of this journey and use it as an anchor to guide my travel decisions. Thankfully, as these things happen, I stumbled upon an online weekend workshop through Spirit Rock Meditation Center called Navigating Transitions in Our 60s and 70s, which gave me exactly what I needed, an intention. What was mine? What question was vital for me to ask before I made my way out into the world again? Here's what I wrote in my journal. Who do I want to be rather than what do I want to do during my time away? This became a beacon. I made all my travel decisions in alignment with this intention. As I traveled, I tried to ask myself, how can I be curious today? How can I be more mindful today? How can I be generous today? How can I be in community today? Versus, what shall I do today? Exercise or buy groceries? Can you see the power in that slight shift of focus? So why this story, and why does it even matter when we're planning for our travels? Here's why. Intention gives your travel purpose. Setting an intention tells your brain and your body, this journey matters to me, and here's why. I'd like to share a story about one of my clients. Let's call her Susan. For 2 years, she'd been dreaming about taking a 4-month road trip across Canada in her VW van with her dog Trixie. But she just couldn't make it happen. During our sessions together, we discovered that her lack of confidence and her limiting beliefs around aging had been holding her back. She was 71 years old. We tuned into her values in action and her intention for this journey. We worked on how she wanted to feel while she was away, and most importantly, how she wanted to feel once she returned to her home in BC. We started to frame it as a pilgrimage. And what she realized was this. She wasn't just looking for a cross-country adventure. She wanted to discover how to show up for herself and others, both on the road and when she returned. She even shifted her thinking about age, seeing it not as a limitation, but as a superpower. That shift changed everything for her. And as I often say to my clients, travel is like therapy with a passport. So, as you can see, Susan, like some of my other clients, aren't women who have got it all together before they embark on a trip. Quite the contrary. They're often stuck, struggling with some concern that's holding them back. So before you next go traveling, ask yourself, what do I want from this journey? Okay, let's move on briefly to another pillar of my STAMP framework. A, adopt a slow travel mindset. Unlike rushed vacations, long, slow travel allows your body and mind to rest. It lets your energy catch up with you. Research shows that rushing is terrible for your nervous system. Your body gets confused and treats minor inconveniences as catastrophes. So please, no more trying to see it all. Lingering, on the other hand, is restorative. It allows time for reflection, for relationships to grow, and for metabolizing our experiences, which are the very foundations of wisdom and vitality. Maybe that's the real gift of slow travel. It's also why I love working with women in their mid-50s, 60s, and 70s, because they typically have the time to consider the real possibility of slow travel now that their children have left home, or they've downsized their life in some way. But they also understand that it's their time now, time to create a life of their choosing. I also want to touch on the importance of traveling slowly when we're navigating any kind of grief or loss, be it the death of someone we love, the end of a relationship, a divorce, an identity, an empty nest. Why? Because we need the time to truly figure out how we want to shape our future. Long-lasting change happens only during journeys that are not rushed. And I'm going to say that again. Long-lasting change happens only during journeys that are not rushed. I like to think of it as a kind of divine incubator. And staying for long stretches in far-off lands clears space inside us for fresh discoveries to enter. It's like Wayne Dyer said, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. I mentioned earlier that there are 5 pillars in my STAMP framework, and here are the remaining 3. T, tend to your brain. M, make a move now. And P, pack a toothbrush, which is all about traveling light. So today I shared with you 2 ways that you can revitalize and deepen your travel experiences, setting an intention for your journey and adopting a slow travel mindset. Hopefully, I got you thinking about how you might apply these ideas in your own life. I want to end with a story that happened back in 2013 when I'd been traveling for over 2 years after my daughter died. I just finished a month-long house sit in Berkeley and was flying up to Seattle. As usual, I hadn't checked in online. I'd made a promise to myself not to do that anymore. I wanted to let the universe seat me wherever I needed to be. I boarded late, one of the last ones on the plane, and I found myself in a seat next to a man who looked uncannily like Johnny Depp. The earring, the ponytail, the goatee, the pale pink sweater, and he smelled good too. Fastening our seatbelts, our fingers almost touched, and we looked at each other. He asked where I lived. I told him I didn't have a permanent address, that I'd been house-sitting all over the world for the past 2 years. He smiled. That's the best way to live. Home is wherever you are and whoever you're with. He didn't ask why I was traveling that way. He didn't know about my daughter or my grief or the fact that I was rebuilding my life from rock bottom, and I didn't offer it. When I'm with you, he said, leaning closer, his mouth almost against my cheek, you're at home. I responded with a fit of schoolgirl giggles to hide my sudden flush. I remember thinking, this seat right here, right now, is exactly where I am meant to be. He was right. My courageous decision to leave behind my old life was exactly what I needed to do, and I did it. I'd found new homes for myself and for my daughter all over the world. I'd rewritten the story of my life. My vitality had slowly found its way back, and I'm certain that's what he saw in my face. So I ask you, what can you do to widen your life, to reignite your vitality? If my daughter Rachel was still alive, she'd urge you to take action now. She'd tell you that each day you press the snooze button, you're missing out on a more vibrant, engaged life. Because if not now, when? That's why I'm so passionate about helping older women who feel stuck re-engage with life through long-term travel. To look in the mirror one morning and finally say, there you are, I've missed you. So, where do we go from here? If you'd like to dig deeper into your own vitality, I want you to grab my vitality assessment for women 55 plus, which you can find on my website, beckylivingston.com. You'll also find out more about my STAMP framework. And if you're interested in working with me, I'm offering a 20% discount on a 1-hour coaching session for participants of this summit. You can find out the details on my website, and Sahara will be sharing that link with you too. And if you'd like to know more about the ways I work with people, please join my Facebook group, Vital Travel Journeys for Women 55 plus. And lastly, the one thing I want you to do today before your head hits the pillow tonight is this. I want you to share this information with one other person. Enjoy the rest of your summit. Bye for now.